And on this fifth day, normally it's described that Lakshmi Devi, having not had Lord Jagannath return to the temple, feigns anger, and along with her associate, she goes to Gundicha. And at Gundicha, she arrests the associates of Lord Jagannath there, and she also beats up the cart of Lord Jagannath. And all of this was to represent the anger of Lakshmi Devi when the Lord leaves to go to Vṛndāvana. Because you know, of course, in the context of Jagannath Ratha-yātrā, the main Jagannath temple is the representation of Dwarka. And it's considered that when Krishna had left Vṛndāvana, went to Mathura, and then eventually to Dwarka, and was residing there, that he was not very happy. And so for 15 days after the Snan Yatra, the Lord feigns sickness, which is the symptom of his unhappiness in being in Dwarka and his missing of Braj. And then after that, he goes on Ratha-yātrā, and he comes to the Gundicha temple, and the Gundicha temple represents Vṛndāvana. And on this fifth day, the goddess of fortune, she goes there along with her associates to make the show of anger for the Lord having gone to Vṛndāvana and so forth and so on. So all of these conceptions regarding the Ratha-yātrā were really inspired by Chaitanya Mahāprabhu and his associates. Ratha-yātrā was going on for obviously many, many years before Mahaprabhu came to Puri, but Mahaprabhu is the sort of opened the portal of the true meaning of the Ratha-yātrā. Krishna Vrajalana Jai E Bhavantra. So this phrase means that the essential mood of the Ratha-yātrā is that the Vrijabasis, headed by the gopis, have become successful in bringing Krishna back from originally Dwarka to the Kurukshetra, where they met during a solar eclipse, and finally being able to bring Krishna back to Vṛndāvana. The reason Kurukshetra is important is because after Krishna had left Vṛndāvana, he did not return. When he was on the chariot of Akrura, he mentioned, Yashyati, I will return, I will return. But obviously in Srimad Bhagavatam, he does not return. Now in other Goswami writings, like the Gopal Champu Jiva Goswami Pad, after killing Dantarakra, he returns to Vṛndāvana. Understand? And also Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad is written in some of his tikas, how Krishna manifests in the two separate forms and goes back with Nanda Maharaj to Braj, and another form stays in Mathura. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is not written like that. And there's a reason for it, because different writings or different manifestations of the Lord's Leela are meant to inspire different degrees of taste in particular kinds of rasa. And in the Vipralamba rasa, means the rasa that comes from separation, there's a very, very intense and sweet heightening of praying. So here it describes that during the solar eclipse, that Krishna had come from Dwarka along with all the other members of the Vrishni dynasty. And at the same time, the Vrijabasis also came there. And this was their first time in meeting Krishna after almost 70 years. Some say 90, some say 70 years that they met at Kurukshetra. The reason that everybody came to Kurukshetra was because it's considered a holy place, and to go there during a solar eclipse is very auspicious. So when they arrived there in Kurukshetra, the gopis had a very deep conversation with Krishna. And Krishna, long story short, because we have to get to our subject matter, Krishna mentioned to the gopis headed by Radhika that still he had to kill one or two more demons, because he had not yet killed Shishupal, Dantarakra, and Salva. There were some demons that had not been killed, I believe. I'm naming the right ones. And so that he could not return to Vṛndāvana at that time. So he told them, though, don't think I'm not in Vṛndāvana. Vṛndāvana parihityajya paramekam nagacchati. It's mentioned Krishna never takes one step out of Vṛndāvana. So he was trying to explain in a philosophical way to the gopis how I'm always present with you by your love, which is actually a true statement. But the gopis were saying, listen, we are not great yogis, we are not philosophers. And then Radhika mentions a very famous verse, Anya Ridoya Moraman, Moramana Vṛndāvana, Moni Moni Eko Korijani. That you should know that my heart and my mind are one. I don't have different levels of understanding. I only understand one thing. My heart is not different from Vṛndāvana. So if you truly want to show mercy to us, you should place your 2 lotus feet on the chariot of my heart and come back to Vṛndāvana. So the Ratha-yātrā as a whole is the manifestation of that mood of Radhika, that Krishna will place his 2 lotus feet on the chariot of our heart. So the chariots in the Ratha-yātrā represent the chariot of the heart of Radhika. And then the pulling of the ropes is the prem. It is the prem pulling of the Vrijabasis headed by gopis, headed by Radhika, who's now in the form of Mahaprabhu, in bringing Krishna back to Vṛndāvana. And in the Ratha-yātrā, that place is Gundicha. You understand? So I just wanted to mention something quickly about Hera Panchami because today is that day. And also at the same time to give a little overview of what is the Ratha-yātrā. There are many deep things about Ratha-yātrā. I think we've had a class on that before. There's a very long history to Ratha-yātrā and very, very deep moods which are embedded in Ratha-yātrā. All right, so today, though, our subject matter was dealing with understanding the deities and particularly understanding what is a kantik bhakti or one-pointed devotion. Now, obviously, when our Srila Prabhupada mercifully came from Vṛndāvana to the Western world and he opened temples, and then he established deities, he established deities according, first of all, to availability of deities. Because when he first came to the West, obviously, he was not carrying deities with him. So in the beginning, mostly everything was in the form of paintings or pictures. And then at a certain point, the first Radha and Krishna deities that were sent to the West was actually the deities in New York of Radha Govinda. And originally they were supposed to come as a set of 3, which is Mahaprabhu and Radha Govinda. My Gurudev, Nityānanda Pravishtam Vishnupada Paramahansastotarasata Sisima, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, he had done this favor for our Srila Prabhupada to arrange for the deities to come to New York. When they were shipping the deities, they could not ship the Mahaprabhu deity at that time. So he let the deities of Radha Govinda come to New York, and eventually they just decided between Srila Prabhupada and my Guru Prabhupada that just to leave the Mahaprabhu deity there in Mathura. So that deity is in Mathura, and of course Radha Govinda came to New York. Later on, Srila Prabhupada would establish the deities of Gaura-Nitāi. So let me first explain a little bit about the Ācāryas and their motivation for the establishment of different deities. Of course, among our Goswami, like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, etc., when they established deities, normally they were deities which had been discovered. So these were already ancient deities which were there, which had come during the time of the grandson of Krishna named Brajanav. And those deities were found or recovered, and those are the deities that were installed, like Madan Mohan, Govinda Dev, etc. At that time, the deities of Radharani were also not present there. That would happen later on. So the deities were never installed as Radha Govinda, Radha Madan Mohan. The deities of Radharani would be placed later on. Now, also, when Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur began the Gauḍīya Math in 1921, he wanted to establish a reality that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was non-different from Radha and Krishna. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nahiyanya. To establish that in the form of the deities, which I'm going to explain shortly, is called the Upasan. The Upasan Peak means the place of our worship and focus. To establish that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not different from Radha and Krishna, he was not simply a saint from Bengal or something that the Bengalis worshipped, but that actually he was the direct form of Radha and Krishna. He established in his temples the deity of Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna. The deity that he would establish of Mahaprabhu was with Mahaprabhu having one hand raised and one hand pointed downward. This feature is called Rasik Shekara Parama Karun. So Rasik Shekara means with the hand that's held up in the air, he's tasting the supremacy of the Ras of Srimati Radharani. And the hand that is pointed down is he's bestowing that mercy on the jivas who are in this world. This all comes from one verse. Prema ras niyas karite ashwadan, rag marg bhakti loke karite pracharan, rasik shekara parama karun. So that deity of Mahaprabhu is called Rasikshekara Paramakarum. So this was the deities that were established in Gaudiya Math. And if you look in the Gaudiya missions that were post the Samadhi of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you'll see in their temples, they all have Gaur, Radha-Krishna. You understand? This Rasikshekara Paramakarum, Mahaprabhu, and Radha-Krishna. Now, when our Srila Prabhupada came to the Western world, as I mentioned, the deities had to come after his actual arrival. So he first established pictures of the deities. Did I mention the first deities were Radha Govinda? Later on, he established Gaura-Nitāi. So a natural question would arise, why did he not also establish the deity of Mahaprabhu Radha-Krishna? Now remember, I told Gurudev was originally going to send that deity, but actually things didn't work out. So Srila Prabhupada told to keep that deity at the Mathura temple. Keshavji Gaudiya Math in Mathura, and just he had the worship of Radha Govinda. Then when he did establish the deity of Mahaprabhu, he established Gaura-Nitāi. So every Acharya has vision for how to carry out the mission of Mahaprabhu. And our Srila Prabhupada was the culmination of all of the Goswamis, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada was the culmination of the prophecy being fulfilled of Mahaprabhu. When I was traveling last year for speaking, in many of the temples, I spoke on this subject matter. The fulfillment of the prophecy, Prithviyache Nata Nagaradigram Savatrapacha Hoibe Moanam. So I spoke on this, that this prophecy says that the holy name of the Lord would be heard in every town and village. That's normally how we translate it. Pitpriyache yata nagaradigram savatra prachar hoibe monam. Normally we say it means that the holy name would spread to every town and village. But if you listen to the verse carefully, it says savatra prachar. So not only the holy name, but savatra means all. And prachar means all of the teachings related to the holy name, not only the holy name. But that means all the teachings related to the holy name. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada made sure Srimad Bhagavatam was translated, Bhagavad Gita was translated, Chaitanya Charitamrita was translated. Some of the books of the Goswamis, like Upadeshamrita, Summary of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is all the prachar of Harinam. Because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is told, Harinam without Harikatha is incomplete. Harikatha is the very swarup. It means it's the very intrinsic nature of Harinam. So Srila Prabhupada was the fulfillment of that prophecy, that not only the name spread all over the world, but also the prachar, or the teachings regarding the name, spread all over the world. Part of those teachings was the establishment of the Arcā-vigraha upasan. It means the worship of the deity in the temple. So the reason that Srila Prabhupada established the deities of Gaura-Nitāi, and later in Raman Rekti in Vṛndāvana, the deity of Kṛṣṇa-Balarāma, was to prove that the Akhanda guru-tattva, Śrī Baladeva-tattva, and in Gaur-lila Nityānanda-tattva, is the means by which this prophecy was fulfilled. So let me repeat it. Mahaprabhu is the object of the worship. Without Nityananda, can anybody obtain the mercy of Mahaprabhu? This was proven in the Lila of Raghunath Das Goswami at Panihati, very famous festival we have every year. Where even though Raghunath Das Goswami tried to run away from home many times to obtain the service of Mahaprabhu, even when he met Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu told him, oh, Makata deke na deke taralokan. Right? Don't do like monkey renunciation. So you should go back to your home, right? And wait there patiently. Antra nishtakara bayalok vyavyahar. Internally cultivate this deep desire for bhakti, and externally carry on with the world appropriately. So Raghunath Das Goswami followed that instruction. Finally, when Nityananda Prabhu came to Panihati, by the arrangement of his Kula Guru, he was able to get free and go to meet Nityananda, and it was only after getting the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, who in Gaur Lila is the manifestation of the ultimate category of mercy in Akhanda Guru-tattva, that he was able to then go to Mahaprabhu. So our Srila Prabhupada established that without the mercy of Akhanda Guru-tattva, nobody can get the mercy of Mahaprabhu, hence nobody can get the mercy of Śrī Śrī Rādhā-Kṛṣṇa Yuga. Understand? So in all of his temples, he would establish sometimes just Gaura-Nitāi, even if Radha-Krishna weren't established. But almost everywhere he would establish Gaura-Nitāi. Uniquely in Vṛndāvana, in our temple in Ramreti, he established Kṛṣṇa-Balarāma as the center deity. And of course, in another prakosha, another chamber of the altar, he established Śrī Śrī Rādhā-Shyam-Sundar. So then the question can become, well, why is that? Why would Śrīla Prabhupada establish Kṛṣṇa-Balarāma primarily? And then, of course, our Guru Govind Swami Maharaj also did this in Bhubaneswar. And of course, even here in Alachua, we have also the deity of Kṛṣṇa-Balarāma. So why was this done? To show that actually Balaram is non-different from Nityananda. So in all of the establishment of the deities, a certain philosophical or theological connection is being made. That Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma Vṛndāvana are non-different from Gaura-Nitāi. You understand? So if you want vraja-bhakti, means you want the worship of the mood of Vṛndāvana, you cannot get that without Mahaprabhu. You can't get Mahaprabhu without Nityananda. That Nityananda, you should know, is non-different from Baladeva. Why is that theologically important? Because Śrī Balaram is called the Vaibhav Prakash. Vaibhav means he is Krishna himself in a different mood. The word bhav means bhav, a mood. Vai means here Vaishishya, or speciality. He is the embodiment of a special mood, but he's non-different from Krishna. What is the special mood that Lord Balaram imbibes? It is called Seva Vastu, Seva Vritti. So I'm explaining it in English. Seva Vastu means Balaram is the very embodiment of the substance of serving Krishna. The entire spiritual world, including the bodies of the Vrijabasis, except the expansions of Radhika, are all composed or made of Sandhinī-śakti. Sandhinī-śakti is the substance of the spiritual world. Just like in this world, you have earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Those are the base principles of material things. In the spiritual world, that energy which manifests everything, the bodies of the spiritual inhabitants, the land of Vṛndāvana, all of these things are established by a Shakti called Sandhinī-śakti. Lord Baladeva, or Balaram, is the personification and the genesis of that Sandhinī-śakti. So therefore, he is the Vastu, means he is the substance of serving Krishna. So for instance, if the gopis pick a flower to offer to Krishna, that flower is composed of Sandhinī-śakti. You understand? Baladeva is the manifest personality from where all of that substance comes from. Therefore, he is called the Seva Vastu. Seva Vritti means he's also the embodiment of all of the attitudes or moods of serving Krishna. So that means the origin of serving Krishna in any mood, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, or Madhurya Rasa. Right? Santa Rasa is not prominent in the mood of serving. So Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, those moods are imbued in Baladeva-tattva, and they enter into the heart of any jiva. You understand? It is Baladeva who is the origin of these moods. Krishna is the object of the mood. The source of the mood is Baladeva-tattva. The pleasure, the happiness that is derived from the exchange of those moods is embodied in Srimati Radharani, and it is called the Hlādinī vritti, or the pleasure potency. So let me explain it again. Baladeva is the substance of the spiritual world. So if you want to offer Krishna a flower, if the land of Vṛndāvana, the dust in Ramareti, the Jamuna, at Kadamba, all the trees that Krishna and his coward boyfriends play on, right? Radha Kunsham, all these things are composed of Sandhinī-śakti. The pleasure that is imbued in those things, which makes Krishna happy, is coming from the Hlādinī vritti, which comes from Radharani. So in the Adi Lila chapter 4, it mentions that Radhika is the only source of Krishna's happiness. This is the meaning here, that her energy is in all of the substance of the spiritual world. Therefore, when Mother Yashoda has Radhika come and cook, or when she cooks herself, or when anything is offered to Krishna, or when Krishna steals butter from the houses of gopis, he's stealing the substance of prem in the form of the Sandhinī-śakti, manifest as butter, yogurt, etc., etc. Understand? So those things are not material substances. You understand? They are spiritual substances. Understand? So this is the role of Baladeva-tattva. So our Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish that theological reality that same Kṛṣṇa-Balarāma, they've come in the Kali-yuga for the benefit of the jivas as Gaura-Nitāi. So he would establish the deities of Gaura-Nitāi. By the mercy of the service of Gaura-Nitāi, what is it? Yata yata Gaura-padara vinde, nindita bhaktim, krita punya rasi. By the mercy of serving Mahaprabhu only, can you enter, as a conditioned soul, can you enter into the realm of Braj? You cannot directly go to Braj without the mercy or by bypassing Gaur-lila. There's no possibility. Understand? So the verse I just quoted is the praman for that. Gaurangera Rasanave, Setaranga Jebe Dube, Śrī Rādhā-Madhav Antaranga. So also it's being sung that if you will dive deeply into the Ras of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, into the ocean of the Rasa of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when you come up, you'll come up in the Antaranga of Radha-Madhav, means Radha and Krishna. So this is the merciful reason why Srila Prabhupada established Gaura-Nitāi. Now, of course, we see in some of our temples that other deities have been added, like in the case of Radha and Krishna deities. In some temples now, the Aṣṭa-sakhīs are there, like in Mayapur. Understand? Aṣṭa-sakhī means Lalita Vishaka Chitra Champakalakta Tunga Devi, Induleka Chitra, Ranga Devi, and Sudevi. So these 8 girlfriends of Radhika are directly expansions of Radhika's own mood in the form of these Aṣṭa-sakhīs. Understand? They're different mental moods of Radhika. I cannot go down that subject matter now. What is Abhisa, Vasaksaja, Kandita, because then we'll get off track here, right? But they personify 8 mental moods of Radhika. And it's also explained in Ujjvala Nimani of Rupa Goswami, Prema Lila Viharanam, Samyak Sakhi Vistarika. Without these Sakhis, the nature of the Leela of Radha and Krishna, the prem exchange between Radha and Krishna, doesn't have as much fulfillment. So these Sakhis, and then of course all manjaris, they're a big part of the exchange of the love between Radha and Krishna. So now having deeper understanding or more advanced understanding, more expanded understanding, in some of our temples, the Aṣṭa-sakhīs have been added to the side of the deities of Radha Govinda, not Radha Govinda, but Radha Madhav in Mayapur, any other deities where the Aṣṭa-sakhīs are present. Understand? So I'm trying to go along with the theological connections between these things as well as we speak about them. Of course, also in many of our temples, we also have the deities of Jagannātha, Baladeva, and Subhadrā. So why would we have, and then I'm going to get to speaking about what is one point to devotion soon, but why then have Jagannātha, Baladeva, and Subhadrā? And are we worshiping several different deities, or how do we look at this? So first, let me describe why Jagannātha, Baladeva, and Subhadrā would be established. In the very first verse of Śrīmad Bhagavatam, it mentions there, Janmadhyasya anvayat itarachastra artishu abhigya swarat. The word swarat here means that Krishna is the independent, and then Rupa Goswami describes his independence is that he is independent enjoyer of all kinds of rasa. So when he begins writing Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he describes Krishna as Akila Rasa Amrita Murti. Akila means full, all. Rasa Amrit, all of the nectar of Ras. Murti, he's the very embodiment or the object of tasting all kinds of rasa. In the first verse of Śrīmad Bhagavatam, the word swarat indicates this. But then 2 words, Janmadhyasya anvayat itaratas. So anvaya means directly. Itaratas means indirectly. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has mentioned this also means 2 kinds of expression of love. So somebody answer me, what 2 kinds of expression of love is he talking about?
Swakya and Parakya, Prabhuji.
Not quite Swakya and Parakya, but in love, there's 2 dimensions.
Oh, the separation and the meeting mood.
Yes. So anvayat means milan, directly meaning. Itaratas means indirectly, right? Through separation. I don't want to give a whole class on Ujjavala-mani, but even in the deepest separation, you can have what is called Vipralamba Rasa, right? And in Vipralamba Rasa, the love rises to such a high level, it causes the appearance of Krishna, even though Krishna is technically away. So let me just give a quick thing, then I don't want to lose track, so don't let me lose track here. But actually, in Sastra, there are two things that are discussed. One is called Yog and Viyog, which literally means physical meeting. Yog and Viyog means physical separation. Like when Krishna is in Mathura and in Dwarka. Ujjavala-mani mentions that only happens in the Prakat Leela here. It does not happen in the Nitya Leela. You understand? But in the Prakat Leela, it means the Leela that Krishna manifests within the material universes, he apparently goes to Mathura and to Dwarka. This is called Viyog. When he's in Vṛndāvana, it is called Yog. Now, within that, there's two kinds of rasa which are experienced. One is called a Sambhog rasa. Sambhog means when they're meeting together. And the other one is called Vipralamba rasa, which means when they are separated, but in their separation, the love becomes so intense, they meet in separation. Okay, Mukunda, that sounded really weird. You understand? So let me explain how. When love reaches such a pinnacle, and there is an idea that my beloved may not return, one takes full shelter of the love they have for that person, and taking full shelter of that love in spiritual reality causes the lover to appear unfettered by anything else. So I'm going to quote the verse from Ujjavala-mani and then I'll explain it. So it mentions in Ujjavala-mani, Rudabhava Akyo Yam Asambhoga Vipralambika. So it mentions here that when Krishna is in Mathura and in Dwarka, and the gopis now are at Uddhav-kyari, because when Krishna got on the chariot of Akrura, they were seeing Krishna pull away, and they stayed at the place called Uddhav-kyari in great lamentation for 3 months, and then they went to Nandagan to console Mother Yashoda. When they're there at Uddhav-kyari, many expressions of the height of the prema, especially the prema of Radhika, is experienced. This prema is called Madanakya Mahabhav. So first, let me just quickly go through how prema works. Again, don't let me lose my track here because I have other deities to discuss. So when we obtain our perfection, it's the stage of bhav. That is the stage of perfection in our material unfolding process. From being a conditioned soul, we come to the stage of bhav. There's realization of our spiritual identity and spiritual nature. After that, we will enter into anywhere in the material universes that Krishna is performing his pastimes. I've explained all these things many times before. There will receive a body made of Vastu City. Now, earlier I explained, where do those Vastu City bodies come from? Who gives those bodies? Balarāma, right? So you get a Vastu City body exactly corresponding to the mood of love that was developed during your sadhana. So that Vastu body now is completely spiritual. You understand? So now that stage is called prema. But even after you obtain prema, depending on what rasa you have, and I'm going to use Madhurya rasa or Manjari Bhav as the ideal, that love will begin to increase. So we'll go from prema to sneha, from sneha to man, to pranay. Sometimes man and pranay may be reversed. Steha, man, pranay, rag. Rag itself then will become anurag. These are all different states of elevation in love. Anurag becomes mahabhav. Therefore, mahabhav is not in every single Brijabasi. It's not that every Brijabasi has mahabhav. Mahabhav is unique to Madhurya rasa and the gopis. Understand? And then even not all gopis have mahabhav. The queens of Dwarka, for instance, also, they don't have mahabhav. It's expressed in Ujjavala-mani. So actually mahabhav is really kind of unique only to Radhika's party. So this mahabhav has two divisions, Rud and Adirud, and they can all be understood by the symptoms they display. but this is not a class on Ujjwala Mani. That Adirud Mahabhav has two more features. One is called Modan, which indicates the happiness experienced in meeting. Mohan, which is the mood, which is, it says in Ujjwala Mani, which is praya, means predominant in Radhika, is called Mohan, and it allows the extremity of her love to go beyond all others and reach a height called Madan Bhav, or Madanakya Mahabhav. That Madanakya Mahabhav produces a situation that when Krishna leaves, Sambhog Vipralambika, her separation mood is the cause of Krishna meeting with her in separation. You understand? So Krishna then manifests to Radhika in the depth of her separation, but here's the unique thing. The second line says, Paramananda Purana, Premavadi, Ishyate. Don't think it's like when Krishna was here before. Now when Krishna appears due to the height of your love in separation, there's no anxiety that he'll leave again. You understand? So it says, Purna, near Barananda, Purna, Premavadi, Ishyate. It says, don't fear that actually Krishna will leave again, because your love has captured him in such a way that now in the depth of your separation, which gives the highest expression of your love, Krishna is completely captured and cannot leave again. So therefore it says, take full shelter of this mood. Now, it's a little difficult to understand because normally we think only of meeting and separation as a physical phenomenon, and therefore we want to always see Radha and Krishna together, so forth and so on. But our Acharyas have explained one of the reasons Krishna goes to Dwarka and then to Mathura, and why in Srimad Bhagavatam it's not mentioned that he returns, is because it wants to give expression to this highest feature of love of Srimati Radhika called Madanakya Mahabhav. All right, so this is really elevated topic, but if we don't begin to explain some of these things, then it becomes difficult to really get the grasp of even why we're serving certain deities and everything else. So that's the contextual relationship between our class today and explaining these kind of things. So the height of Radhika's love, which is called Madan Bhav, that love has the power to create meeting even though Krishna is physically separated. Understand? Vrijindanandan Prabhu or Ganga have a question?
Open it up. Yeah. Haribol, good day. I'm trying to remember when I hit the thing. What was I going to ask you? It was something about the eight prominent gopis and their relationship with Radha, which is actually a filling a mood that they're in that relationship that Radha has with Krishna, and they amplify that mood because they're so overwhelmed by that mood.
Yes, the Aṣṭa-sakhīs of Radhika, the ones I mentioned, Lalita, Vishaka, Tungavidya, Induleka, Chitra, Champakalata, Rangadevi, and Sudevi. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 8, it mentions there that they represent 8 avas. Avas means moods of Radhika. Radhika has 8 moods of how she expresses her love for Krishna. One is when she arranges to meet Krishna. It's called Abhisar. After Abhisar, they decorate both Radhika's body, or even prior to the Abhisar, they decorate Radhika's body, but then they also decorate the meeting place. This is called Vasak Sajja. Then Radhika expresses a mood called Utkantita. Utkantita literally means if she hears a sound in the forest, she raises her neck like this to look. Oh, is he coming? Is he coming? So this is her expression of anticipation of Krishna's arrival. It's called Utkantita. When Krishna does not come on time and he gets there late, another mood arises called Kandita. Kandita means when Krishna comes in, just like if you come in that house very late, right, and Ganga doesn't know where you were, you may face Kandita. Kandita means, first they're going to ask you, where were you? How come it took you so long to get here? Etc., etc. This is called Kandita. If the Kandita reaches a level in which Radhika then tells Krishna, okay, since you took so long to get here, there's no reason for you to be here, just go ahead about your business, right? So Krishna will be disheartened and leave, Then Kalahandrita, Radhika will say, oh, why did I say that? Maybe I was too harsh. And her Sakhīs will gather around her and tell her, yes, 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 you were too harsh on her. You were too harsh on him. So then she'll send one Manjari to call him back. So these are all functional things, right? So now, Kalahandrita, somehow or another, Krishna could not make it, either due to some obstacle or something happened. And when he does not come, it is called Vipralabdha. Vipralabdha means he couldn't make it, and Radhika spent the whole night waiting. And now she's feeling intense separation because he could not make it to the meeting place. Then there's Prasita Bhatrika. Prasita Bhatrika means when Krishna goes to Mathura and Dwarka, the mood that Radhika and the gopis face is called Prasita Bhatrika, like when a husband has left, right, and gone to another place or something. Then the highest mood and the sweetest mood is called Swadhina Bhatrika Nayika. Swadhina Bhatrika Nayika means when Radhika brings Krishna completely under her control. While we're talking about this, the deities that we worship in our temple are imbued with this mood called Swadhina Bhatrika Nayika. How do we know? Because Krishna is standing in Tribhanga. The symptom of a hero, it's called a Nayak, who has become completely surrendered to the wishes of his lover, is when he stands in a form like Krishna standing Tribhanga. You understand? This is the symptom that he's called a Dhiralalit, means playful, Anukul, submissive lover. And Radhika at that time is called Swadhina Bhatrika Nayika. So if you see many deities of Radhika, she's holding one hand up, like giving a blessing, and the other hand is pointing down to her feet. So the meaning of this, she's giving Krishna permission to serve her. Understand? The only way to understand these things is to understand what is prema or what is love. Other than that, the mindset will say, oh, he's God. Why should he have to serve? That will come if there's no understanding of what is love of God. Understand? So this mood, Swadhina Bhatrika Nayika, is the highest particular manifestation of love. Krishna himself relishes this. There are so many pastimes where Krishna wants this mood to take place. I'll tell something very small very quickly because we still have other things to accomplish here. But first of all, in the Rasa Sudha Nidhi, which is written by Prabodhananda Saraswati, he was an associate of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, and he's an incarnation of one of the Aṣṭa-sakhīs named Tungavidya. So in his Radha Rasa Sudha Nidhi, he's written, Tanna Pratikshana Chamatkara Charu Lila Lavanya Mohana Maha Madhur Anga Bhangi. He's given the reason why Krishna is standing in a threefold bending form. Radha Adanam Hi Madhuranga Kala Nidam. Because when Krishna glances from the corner of his eyes, that's why his head is tilted one way, he looks and he sees the beauty of Radhika's face. And Radhika's face, Radha Ananam means her face, is Kala Nidam. It is like an ocean of erotic arts. You understand? So he tilts his head over so he can be a little closer. He crosses his feet where his ankles are touching the bottom of her skirt, so he can have some contact, but not in a gross way. You understand? So all of this has been written by Acharyas. It's very kind of deep, more esoteric thing. So, but I'm explaining. Even the Acharyas have analyzed why he's standing in Tribhanga. Right? Tribhanga means bent in three places: at the hips, at the head, and his feet are crossed. Right? So this is the deities we worship, indicating theologically this is our aspirational mood. Until and unless there's some depth of practice and some maturation of practice, and a person enters into Rag Marg, these things are not really accessible. Because the overwhelming mood of Krishna's Bhagavata, his being God, will dominate the landscape of a person's consciousness, and you can't conceive of the sweetness or madhuryata of Krishna and Krishna's Leela and Krishna's associates. So first, it requires some maturation in bhajan practice. It requires entering the path of Rag Marg aspirationally first, and then in actuality, when there's maturation, perhaps to the level of Ruchi, certainly at Nishta, but going into Ruchi. Then there's earnest practice in Raganuga, southern. And there should be thick Visay Sambandha Gyan, some conviction about my internal identity, not realization of it, conviction of it, what I aspire to. That is the only way to enter into the path of Rag Marg. 4 things are needed: Lobh, Sambandha, Anugatya, and Kripa. These are the 4 elements of the practice of Raganuga Sadhana. Lobh, agreed for it. Oh, I want to serve Krishna like Subal. I want to serve like Rup Manjari. You understand? Then Anugatya, you have to take up guidance under someone with that kind of mood. So Lobh, Anugatya, Sambandha. Then your mood has to be developed. First aspirationally, then by conviction, then substantively in bhav. And then Kripa. It requires the Kripa of Krishna, Mahaprabhu, Parampara, and Gurudev. So these are the deities we worship, primarily, Radha and Krishna. Now we have other, Premavati. First, Virginanand is okay. I've explained Aṣṭa-sakhīs, what they are. Yes. Premavati. Hey, Prem, you're still muted. You may be having trouble unmuting. So Prem, as soon as you unmute, just come in and I'll answer. All right. So now we've described the deities that are primarily in the temples. We've gone through Radha, Krishna, Mahaprabhu, Gaura-Nitāi. Sometimes there's an expansion of the Gaura-Nitāi deities, like in Laguna Beach and other places where you have the whole Pancha-tattva. So I've explained what the Pancha-tattva is before, based on the verse, Pancha-tattvakam Krishnam, Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam, Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakyam, Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. So the Pancha-tattva represents 5 truths that are the reality of Krishna Prem. One is the Bhakta Rup. The Bhakta Rup means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. He is the pinnacle of the love of Radha and Krishna, because the form of Mahaprabhu is a result of a transformation in the love between Radha and Krishna, which makes their roles reverse and produce a form which is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is explained in the Adi Lila, Śrī Rādhā Pranaya Vikriti, Hlādinī-śakti, Asmad. Asmad means like a cause of something. So the pranay, or the love of Radha for Krishna, and Krishna's tasting that love, becomes vikriti, a transformational power that causes Krishna himself to become absorbed in the mood of Radhika, in a desire to taste that kind of love. That form is Mahaprabhu. It is called the Bhakta Rup. I'm coming, Asha. And then, in order to understand that, then Akhanda guru-tattva, Sri Nityananda appears. That is called the Bhakta Swarup. But even if that understanding or the ability to reveal that truth of the Bhakta Rup is present, it doesn't happen for us unless it descends to a plane which is observable by the jivas in this world. So therefore, Advaita Ācāryas is called the Bhakta Avatar, because he calls for the descent of that reality to come to this plane. But even when it descends to this plane, if the power to understand it is not present, you won't catch it. Therefore, Radharani herself comes as Gadadhar Pandit, or the Bhakti Shakti, the power of Bhakti. All of those things take shelter in a pure devotee, Srivas Adi, Gaura Bhaktavinda. So Srivas represents the pure devotee, in whom, literally in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it mentions, Shri Bhakti Rasa Hridaya Tvam Ataha Srivas Uchate. His name is Srivas because Sri Bhakti Ras, meaning the power of tasting this reality, is present in the heart of pure devotees. You understand? So we all take shelter of a pure devotee in order to access the power of bhakti, to appreciate the descent of Mahaprabhu, to understand the revelation given by Nityananda of the pure manifestation of the Prem Rup, which is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Understand? So therefore the Pancha-tattva deity is established. This is the theological framework for that. Now, of course, many temples and devotees just establish deities. They may or may not know all these things, but okay, it's cool to have a Pancha-tattva deities or something. You understand? All right, Prem, you're unmuted.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. I just wanted to know if I got this correct, that in apricot lila, which is in the spiritual world, there's no separation, because I thought that there was some separation. If they can't see Krishna, they experience some suffering in the form of separation. So do I have that wrong?
Not wrong. What happens is that for the eternal associates, there's not a difference between prakat lila and aprakat lila. So whenever they experience separation, it's written in Ujjalanimani, yoga viyoga sthiti, prakata lila viseshasya. So it says that this is a, visesh means a speciality of the prakat lila. So yoga viyoga sthiti, the idea of separation and meeting in terms of actual physical separation, only happens in the prakat lila. Prakat lila viseshasya. It's only a feature of the prakat lila. You understand? So there, what happens is that the Brijabasis in the eternal abode, prakat lila, when they experience separation, or even Krishna's birth or killing of demons, they experience it via the prakat lila. Because Krishna doesn't take birth in Nitya Lila, he doesn't leave Vṛndāvana in Nitya Lila. You understand? That's why when Jiva Goswami wrote Gopal Champu, he wrote that Madhukanta and Snigdhakanta telling Harikatha of these things, and the experience of the things is happening in Prakat Lila. But for them, they don't see it as a duality. Like we're talking in Siddhanta, this is Prakat Lila, that's Aprakat Lila. But for them, they experience it according to their mood. Like the very definition of the love of Radhika is described in Ujjalanimani. Yog esha bhavedesha vachikti kopi madanaha. Vraja-bhakti virajante nitya lila sahasrada. So I've explained this verse before. So here it's saying Yog esha bhavedesha, that Radhika's love is such that Yog means they're always together. But I explained earlier how that happens. Yog esha bhavedesha. Vichitri kopi madanaha. Vichitri means it's a wonderful, charming nature of their love, that it has this feature that even though Radha and Krishna are always together, a speciality of that Braj Leela, Braja Vilasa Virajante, means it's predominant only in Braj Leela. Nitya Leela Sahasrada, she experiences several different chambers of the Leela, and they can all be going on simultaneously. I'll give you an example. Radhika could be sitting on the lap of Krishna, like in Praying Vaichitya. She's sitting on the lap of Krishna, but then Madhumangal says, oh, Madhusudan has gone. And when he says Madhusudan has gone, Radhika hears it in her ear, becomes so absorbed in just hearing it, even though she's sitting on the lap of Krishna, she experiences separation. She enters into an actual prakosh, means like a chamber of the Leela in which they're separated. Understand? So these are nuances of praying. So let's call praying Vaichitya, that particular kind of incident. But there are many other features in which Radhika could enter another prakosh. You understand? In which she's meeting. I think Asha Didi also had her hand up.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Haribol, Didi.
Haribol. So in the beginning, you told us that Baldev Prabhu is the Vaibhav Prakash, and he is the Seva Bastu and Seva Briti, mood and contents.
Yes.
Except the Radharani, but everything has come from the hymn. So all the gopis, which are like all the gopis or maybe the 8 Sakhīs, they are the Kaya view of Radharani.
Yes.
So my question is that I know Radharani is not come from the Baldev Prabhu Prakash. She is a direct expansion
Shakti.
From the left side. She is the Shakti of Krishna.
Yes.
So all the 8 Sakhī, which are the Kaya view, they are also not from Baldev Prabhu because they are coming from Radharani.
From Radharani only. Yeah, not only them, but the Aṣṭa-sakhīs, some Manjaris as well, they're actually Kaya view of Radhika.
Yeah, okay.
If any jiva obtains their perfection and they want to serve in Palidasi Bhav or Manjari Bhav, their forms are given by Baladeva and Sandhinī-śakti, but not the direct expansions of Radhika.
Not the Nitya Siddha one. The Parika, like
even Nitya Siddhas, even the Nityasiddhas, not all are Kaya. I asked this to Gurudev before. Not all are Kaya-Vyuha Radhika.
Okay, so only the 8 Sakhi, but other gopis
And some
are coming
Manjaris is
from,
explained.
and
Some
some
Manjaris
Manjaris are
also.
coming from Baldev Prabhu, not from Radharani directly.
Yes.
Okay, that was my question to differentiate when you told that let it be clear that in what way it is. Thank you,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
yes. And I'll try to look, because it mentioned some Manjaris, because once Srila Prabhupada wrote that among our Goswami Varga, not all are Kaya-Vyuha Radhika, but they are Nityasiddha. And that question was brought up and asked to Gurudev.
Yes, they are Nityasiddha, but few of them, like as you differentiate that, you said that Baldev Prabhu is the Vaibhav Prakash and he is the Seva
Yes.
Vastu, he is the Seva Vritti,
So
he
there are
is the
forms of
fool,
that.
he is the mood, not the Radharani. So we know that some of 8 Sakhis are Kaya-Vyuha and some Manjaris also, which I do not know. And so I just wanted to know that no, like gopis are not all coming from Radharani. They are also coming from the Baldev Prabhu, Vaibhav Prakash, like Sandhinī-śakti.
Their bodies are, yes.
Yes. And about the Prakat and Prakat Leela, as Didi was asking and you were explaining, you have also told us before that separation is just an abhiman in the Prakat Leela.
Yes.
There is nothing happening. So I just wanted to, because this question was asked, this was, you only explained that there is in Prakat Leela, everything is in the present time. That's why there is nothing that they are all linked and Navaman. So there is no question of forgetting Krishna or Krishna not being seen. They are always seeing it. So it is only if they feel it also, that is the Abhiman which is realized in the Prakat Leela.
Yes, exactly. You're exactly right. The verse right after the verse I quoted from Ujjwala Nimani says that in the Aprakat Leela, there is no separation. In the Aprakat Leela. So it is an Abhiman. Abhiman, if people don't know, Abhiman means a conception, a self-conception. There's an Abhiman only, especially if they hear the Harikatha, like of Madhukan Snigdhakan, then they relish it in the Prakat Leela. So exactly what you said is very good.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
What would be the category of the 8 principal wives?
Oh, the 8 principal wives, like Rukmini, Satyabhama, etc. In the Lalit Madhav of Rupa Goswami, those 8 wives are the 8 principal gopis.
Okay.
Radharani herself is Satyabhama, Chandravali is Rukmini, Kalindi, Jambavati is Lalita, like that. Kalindi is Vishaka. You understand? So actually, but in order to understand this clearly, it'd be a whole nother class. But to read Vidagdha Madhav verse first, but then Lalit Madhav, because Lalit Madhav, especially I think it's the 7th or 8th chapter, explains how the gopis end up in Dwarka. You understand? Including the 16,000 other gopis, 100 gopis, they also end up there. They're kidnapped by Banasur, then they end up also in Dwarka, and Krishna marries them. You understand? So the whole idea of this was to give the reality of the superiority of Parakya Bhav. Parakya Bhav means love, the love that's exchanged between a lover and beloved, that's not dharmic wedded love. So the manifestation of all the queens in Dwarka represent the challenge that what is the superiority between wedded love and paramour love. So when Rukmini, Satyabhama, they all marry Krishna, they're in Dwarka. In the very end of Lalit Madhav, right? There's a whole story, so it'd be too complex to tell the whole story. But long story short, Chandravali is represented in Dwarka as Rukmini. There was a promise made to Rukmini in front of her father that if Krishna wanted to marry anyone else, he would have to get her permission. So in Lalit Madhav, it's presented that Radhika, who's in the form of Satyabhama, is kept hidden because of the extremity of her beauty and everything from Krishna. They build a whole garden outside of Dwarka called Nava Vṛndāvana. And there, this Satyabhama is staying there, right? So it's a little different from the story that's written in Bhagavatam, but Rupa Goswami is telling this for the theological reasons. Finally, Rukmini, to make a long story short, agrees that he can marry Satyabhama. Then it's revealed in the end who all of them are. And then Satyabhama, who's Radhika, tells, listen, this is all great now. Everybody's married. Everything is great. But you know what? I would like to have the same mood that I had when I was in Vṛndāvana. Then Yoga Maya, who's called Ekanamsa in Dwarka, she closes the whole curtain of the Dwarka Leela, separates it, and remanifests the Leela in Braj. Same thing happens in Gopal Champu. After killing Dantavakra, Jiva Goswami says Krishna returns to Vṛndāvana. When he returns, I'm coming, Gail. When he returns to Vṛndāvana, the idea is, oh, well, why can't he marry the gopis now? So then it says, no, they're already married. How can Krishna marry them? Then Purnamasi, who's Yoga Maya, speaks up and says, nope, they're not really married. On the day they were to be taken to the homes of the husbands, I went to each father and said, because of the pain that you'll feel in separation from your daughters, I will deliver them to the house of the in-laws. I never did that. I made duplicates of all of these girls and gave the duplicates to the in-laws, and those other gopis stayed in another prakosh, means another chamber of the Leela, only thinking they were married, because they were never touched by any husbands. Only those Sadhana Siddha gopis, who especially were the sages in Dandakaranya, blessed by Ram, when they came into Braj Leela, they did not get sufficient association of Nitya Siddha gopis. So on the night of the Ras Leela, they were checked from leaving their homes by their fathers or elders, etc. You understand? But the other gopis, the reason they were able to go to Ras is because they were duplicates in the homes. So the husbands never thought my wife has gone anywhere. So now Purnamasi says so they can get married. So they said, well, you should prove this. So then Purnamasi, she brings the duplicate gopis and the regular gopis, and people can see the difference. But then Durvasa Muni shows up and says, yes, but still, because it would be breaking dharma to do this. If this is not true, we have to prove who's real gopis and who's not. So then Purnamasi suggests, listen, before I allow doing Ram Leela for Maya Sita to be kidnapped, and the real Sita was kept with Swaha, means the wife of Agni. So she was never touched by Ravan. You understand? So she said, I can do that same thing again. I can have all the gopis walk through fire and the real ones will manifest from the duplicates. So Durvasa Muni told her, no, listen, that was one thing. But what about the fire of my tapasya? He manifested fire from his body. If they walk through this, it will prove it. So then when they walked through the fire of Durvasa Muni's tapasya, the real gopis were seen as separate from the duplicates. At that time, it suggested they can get married. They all get married, including Radharani. Then while Radharani is sitting in her home one day and she's looking out at Braj, she says, Ya Kumara Haras, so Evahi Te Chaitra Sapas. It's the famous verse that Mahaprabhu recited at Jagannath Ratha-yātrā, saying, oh, I long for the day when in my youth it was stolen away by my lover prior to marriage. At that time, Yoga Maya closes the curtain on that whole marriage Leela, and Parakya Bhav is seen as superior. So both the Dwarka Leela and this Leela in Gopal Champu is to prove the superiority of Parakya Rasa over Swakya Rasa.
Okay,
that's
so
the primary theology in our line.
Okay, so with the 8 principal wives.
Yes.
So I guess you're explaining that this is the reason why they felt that Krishna really didn't want to be with them, that Krishna really didn't love them.
Exactly.
And that he was dreaming about Radharani.
Yes, exactly.
And so forth.
Exactly. Okay. What you're saying is exactly right.
Okay.
So they always had this apprehension, and they go and ask Rohini, because Rohini lived in Vṛndāvana, why is this happening like this? And then she gives the whole explanation, which is the basis for Ratha-yātrā. Because when she starts telling this pastime, Subhadra standing at the door, her arms shrinking, Kṛṣṇa-Balarāma. Right, so I told this before.
Right.
So you can see how dots become connected.
But before you go to tell that again,
yeah, I can't. That'd be a whole
know. Okay. But I really wanted to know why Srimati Radharani wasn't included with Jagannath and Baladeva. Why was it Subhadra? Oh,
no, because Radharani will come as Mahaprabhu. The purpose of the Ratha-yātrā is twofold. One is that Krishna wanted to know, Śrī Rādhā Pranaya Mahima Kintasovani Eva. What is the glory of the love of Radhika? I want to taste it myself. Then, during the end of Krishna's pastimes, when he was sitting under the pipal tree, he was thinking, listen, if I become absorbed in the mood of Radhika, how will I know as Krishna that I'm tasting it? Therefore, he performs the whole Jagannath Leela so he can witness himself tasting the mood of Radhika. So as Jagannath, he's watching himself in the mood of Radhika pulling the cart. This is why Jagannath is in ecstasy. You understand?
So, in other words, you're saying that the appearance of Jagannath is more about the mood or the desire of Mahaprabhu than it is Nīlamadeva sharing with the king
Indradyumna. Yeah.
That he wasn't going to appear to him in this way, but he was going to appear to him, as
that's just part of the history.
Subhadra and
that's just part of history. But the ultimate thing, the ultimate thing becomes Mahaprabhu tasting the mood of Radhika in the full success of bringing Krishna back to Vṛndāvana. That's why I quoted the verse earlier. Krishna Vrajalana Jai E Bhavantara. This is the real mood. So Mahaprabhu being able to take Jagannath, who's Krishna, in his ecstatic form. Even when Jagannath comes out of the temple, it's called Bahandi. Bahandi means Jagannath, when he comes out of the temple, is doing like this. It's to show the ecstasy that he's absorbed in thinking about meeting Radharani again. Okay. Then he gets on the chariot, and all of the Gopi associates of Radhika, they grab the ropes, which essentially is the praying of their hearts. And along with Radhika, who's Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, who begins singing in the kirtan. And while in the kirtan, Mahaprabhu recites the verse I spoke. Ya Kumar Harasa Evi Varaste Taitra Sapas. He recites this verse. And nobody can understand why he's reciting such a verse. But I already gave the reason. Because he's describing Radhika feeling overwhelmed in the happiness that Krishna is now coming back to Vṛndāvana. And in Vṛndāvana, we sing all the time. Jaya Jaya Ujjvala Rasa Savarasa Sar Parakiya Bhave Jaha Brajate Prachara. The superiority of the Parakiya Bhav is so much higher than the Swakiya. You understand? So Krishna relishes it more. You understand? So all of these things are the demonstration of the superiority of that Parakiya Bhav and the superiority of Radhika's praying in that Parakiya Bhav. Okay, Gail?
Trying to understand why Subhadra is included.
Oh, why Subhadra? Because Subhadra is Yogmaya Shakti. You understand? Oh. And she also represents a Bhakti Shakti, because she's also expansion, ultimate of Radharani. Because Radharani is the Mool Shakti Tattva. So even in the chariots, we were discussing this on the phone conference the other day. Normally the proper order for the carts is Baladeva first, which represents guru-tattva. Then Bhakti Tattva is represented by Subhadra. Then you obtain Krishna. In the Western world, it didn't make, we didn't think of all these things in the beginning, so we put the cart of Jagannath first. But normally in Puri, and the proper theological framework, because Jagannath comes last.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Gail?
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. This Kali-yuga of Radharani, wondering, that's her energy, no?
Yeah, those are her own expansions.
Her own expansions. So when Jiva becomes a sadhaka siddha, right? And their rasa is Manjari Bhav, Gopi Bhav. Or as a jiva, are they necessarily from Balaram Shakti or Hlādinī-śakti?
The body they receive is a Sandhinī-śakti body that comes from Baladeva. They are awarded a body made of Sandhinī-śakti. They are not Kaya Vyuha Radhika.
Okay, and so my question actually is, as a jiva, when you become perfected, like 100% of the time, are you necessarily Baladeva-Shakti?
No. Yeah, no. The body you receive, just like in this world, when you're born from a mother and father, you get a body made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and a subtle body made of mind, intelligence, and false ego, correct?
Yes.
So when you get your spiritual body, that body, if you were a bada jiva, a bound jiva, and then you became perfected and you obtained praying, and you got a body, which is called a vastu siddhi body, means a body made of spiritual reality. That body is composed of Sandhinī-śakti. That Sandhinī-śakti comes from Baladeva. It doesn't have anything to do with the mood you have. It's the substance of your body is composed of that Shakti. Understand?
Yes, yes. I think I was asking this question because there's something floating around in my head about if you have a particular rasa that's anything but gopi or manjari, then you come from Baladeva Shakti. And if you have a manjari bhav or gopi bhav, then you come from Radharani-Shakti.
No. This is philosophically incorrect. If you are a Bada Jiva and by sadhana you became perfect by sadhana, the body that you receive of Sandhinī-śakti, like I was just explaining, that comes from Baladeva. The mood you have, also that mood comes from the vritti or seva mood you have. Because Balaram is the vritti also of all different moods. How is Baladeva the vritti or the mood of serving Srimati Radharani? Does anybody know?
Ananga Manjari.
As Ananga Manjari.
Yeah.
Ananga Manjari is not a Manjari, by the way. Ananga Manjari is a Vada Gopi, but
Yes.
she's called Ananga Manjari. But that mood also comes from Baladeva-tattva. The object of your worship is Srimati Radharani. For the Nitya Siddhas, some of the Nitya Siddhas are Kaya-vyuha, they're direct expansions of Radhika's own body. Some are Nitya Siddhas who, though they have Sandhinī-śakti bodies, they are Nitya Siddha eternal associates in Paliyadasi Bhav or Manjari Bhav.
Oh, so a person who is a Nitya Siddha, right, they could either be Radharani-tattva or Balarāma-tattva.
It's not Balarāma-tattva. It's where the body comes from. You understand? It's not that they're related to Balarāma-tattva, right? It's that their bodies, every Madhya Yashoda Maharaj Nanda, their bodies are Krishna's body. What to speak of Nanda Yashoda? Krishna's body is made of Sandhinī-śakti.
Oh, everybody.
Krishna's shoes, his flute, his umbrella, the cows, it's all made of Sandhinī-śakti.
Okay, so no matter what rasa you have, right? Your body is Balarāma-tattva, Sandhini.
It's Sandhinī-śakti.
Yeah, no matter what your rasa. And also, no matter whether you're Nitya Siddha, no, that's not true. Whether you're Nitya Siddha or Sadhaka Siddha. Because if you're not Kavya of Radhika. Now also, that's in Braj, that those bodies awarded with Sandhinī-śakti, they come from Baladeva. In Vaikuntha, they come from Sankarshan. The bodies in the material world are manifest from the Paramatma. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, so we got just a little more to go because we don't have much time. All right, so we got down to all the deities. Now, what about deities like Nṛsiṁhadeva? Oh, Sadhanasiddha Prabhu?
Good, you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, Prabhuji.
Oh, okay. Hi. Okay. Hi, Krishna. Good. Good. According to what you just said, right? The bodies of the whole compilation of the Vṛndāvana is comprised of Sandhinī-śakti. But
yes.
What I want to find, since Govinda started from the spiritual world by showing Radha how much he loved her, and his soul began to grow. Would Govinda also be considered part of the Sandhinī-śakti of Balaram?
Yes, that's explained both in Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. The body of Krishna is also composed of Sandhinī-śakti. But we can't think of it, it's an ontological statement, not a historical one. So we can't, just like if we say Baladeva is the first expansion of Krishna, is that true or not?
Yes, yes. But
so if you think about it, when did that happen?
No time. No time. No
it's an
time.
ontological statement, it's not a historical one.
Yes.
So when we say that the body of Krishna is Sandhinī-śakti, it wasn't that Krishna at some point obtained a body composed of Sandhinī-śakti. He's eternally Krishna, and his body is composed of Sandhinī-śakti.
Okay, yes. Got it. Hare Krishna.
And when we become perfect, the body that we're awarded upon our perfection is made of spiritual substance. That spiritual substance is called Sandhinī-śakti. And like we have an ego in this world, we call it false egoism. The egoism in the spiritual world is our particular bhav. That becomes your egoism. I'm the Palyadasi of Radhika. I'm the Sakha of Krishna. I'm a servant in the house of Nanda Maharaj in Dasharas. Or I have like Vatsalya mood, like an elderly gopi, a gop. You understand? So that becomes your bhav becomes actual body composed of Sandhinī-śakti. So your bhav is your mood. And the happiness in that mood comes from the Hlādinī vritti, the pleasure potency. And it gives pleasure to Krishna as well. The substance is Sandhinī-śakti.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, just one question. There are two, you were just talking about Vastu Siddhi. So when we get the Swarup Siddhi, and at that time when the Suddha Sattva Visheshatma come, that time still the body is not made of Sandhinī-śakti, no?
It is like, if you want to give an example of it, it's like if there's a mirror, but it's not the best example of mirror. If there's like a projection of an actual thing, and it projects like that form in your consciousness, that's what your Swarup body is like, your Bhav Swarup body. It's a projection from a ray of prem of the actual Bhav you have manifest in your chitta. When you obtain Vastu Siddhi, you enter into wherever Krishna's Prakat Leela is going on, that body then is constituted fully of Sandhinī-śakti.
Okay, that I understood because you were just saying. I just I know that on the platform of Sandhinī-śakti in the Bhav stage, Suddha Sattva Visheshatma, which is combination of Sambit and Hlādinī, it comes through the Ragatmik Jan through Gurudev, through our Chitta and crystallize. But I never thought about that, whether it is like you differentiated that when we get the Vastu Siddhi, our body is made up of pure Sandhinī-śakti. So what about in Vastu Siddhi? It is still...
No. In Vastu Siddhi, it's Sandhinī-śakti. In Swarup Siddhi,
yes, in Swarup Siddhi,
that body is not made completely of Sandhinī-śakti.
Okay.
It is a reflection. There's a reflection of the spiritual substance having been illuminated by a ray of praying.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Okay.
All right, what time do we have? Yeah, we still have a little time. So Nṛsiṁhadeva. So in many temples, there's also the deity of Nṛsiṁhadeva, and how does that factor in to one-pointed devotion? Because the bottom line of all of this is you cannot have several objects of worship. You can only have one object of worship. So I'm going to reconcile that. I'll just speak about Nṛsiṁhadeva and gloss the other ones. Quickly, Jamuna. You got your pen and paper out and everything.
Question. So saying to your bhakti will then make you realize that who I truly am in the spirit. So also what or who I am truly meant to serve once we get our perfect bhakti or perfect body.
Yes, no. Who you are and how you will serve will be realized within the course of your practice. Okay. Then that same body, once you give up this body, will be substantively awarded, right? Be substantively awarded by the Sandhinī-śakti when you enter into wherever Krishna is performing his leelas within the material universes.
Okay.
That body is called a vastu, like Asha did, a vastu body. It means a substantive body. In the stage of bhav, a reflection of that body and your mood will appear on your consciousness. Just like when you have dreams at night, you see your actual body, but it's not the physical earth, water, fire, and ether body. It's a subtle body. So you'll see your spiritual body in a subtle form projected on your consciousness. You understand? And you can have interaction with that spiritual body. But because there's some consciousness maintained that I have a sadhaka body, it will go vacillating between absorption in your spiritual body and then coming back into your sadhaka body.
Okay.
That's why you see the histories, like in many books of Raghunath Das Goswami, Rupa Goswami, they have a darshan of Krishna. In the darshan of Krishna, Rupa Goswami sees himself as Rupa Manjari. Now he actually is that, but demonstrating for us. He sees that I'm Rupa Manjari doing a service. Then that vision breaks and they have deep separation mood. In the depth of the separation, another vision comes, another lila. So when you become perfected in your sadhana, this is what happens. You understand? That it'll go back and forth between having the darshan of different leelas in your spiritual form. That will break. You see your sadhaka form again, and again you start chanting Hare Krishna, and you're crying everything. Then again the mercy is shown, another leela, another sporti. This is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Seva sadhika rupena siddha rupena chatrahi. In your sadhaka body, you're hearing and chanting, doing mangalarati, all these things. In your siddha body, you're seeing the leelas of Krishna, etc., etc.
All right. Thank you, Uday.
Okay. So what is the role of Nṛsiṁhadeva in our theological framework? So Nṛsiṁhadeva is no doubt also, like all the other incarnations, they're directly Krishna. In Brahma Samhita, it's mentioned there, Ramadi Murteshu Kala Niyamena Tistan Nanavataram Akarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu. Krishna Swayam Sambhavat. So Krishna Swayam Bhagavan, and all these are incarnations, except Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is directly Krishna himself. So he's not an incarnation. He's directly the avatari, or directly Krishna himself. Right? Nṛsiṁhadeva is a Paravasta avatar. Paravasta avatar means there's three of them. One is Ramachandra, one is Nṛsiṁhadeva, the other one is Krishna himself. So in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Rupa Goswami describes that Nṛsiṁhadeva is a form where all six opulence of Krishna are turned up to the highest volume. Ramachandra, all six opulences turned up to the highest volume. Krishna himself exceeds both of them because he's the origin of those six opulences. You understand? Plus he has other features they don't have. In our theological framework, Nṛsiṁhadeva descends as the protector of the Sankirtan movement of Mahaprabhu. So sometimes he's called Vigna Vinasan. Vigna means a obstacle. Vinasan means who destroys obstacles. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the story of Narasimha and Prahalad, Jai and Vijay, there are many teachings on what is prema, many teachings on what is surrender, many teachings on guru-tattva, many teachings. So many things are in that Leela, which are prominent in bhakti, that we have the deity of Nṛsiṁhadeva in the temple in order to get the mercy to understand those Leelas, which are manifest everywhere from the third canto into the seventh canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's in the Narasimha Leela that the first understanding of prema is given. It's in the very first verse of Bhagavatam, but hardly anybody will catch it there. Because the first verse of Bhagavatam is talking about Madhurya Rasa, Janma Adi Rasa. Janmadhyasya means Janma Adi Rasa, the highest kind of Rasa. So, but throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, various levels of expansion of the rasa are discussed and various levels of maturation in the rasa are discussed. So in the Narasimha Prahalad Charit, in different phases, like in the conversation between Lord Narayan and the four Kumaras, after the cursing of Jai and Vijay, he establishes what is the element of prema called mamata, mindness. Like when you say, this is my wife, my children. So things that you have affection for, you apply a feeling of mamata, mindness to them. So in here, when you look at the conversation between the four Kumaras, and when I was telling Nrsimha Charit, means the pastimes of Nrsimha before, I told, in that conversation, he establishes mamata for Jai and Vijay. That even though the 4 Kumaras are highly elevated Brahmins, and they're becoming devotees at this point, he establishes that this Jai and Vijay, they're actually my devotees. They're mine. He even tells them, I'll take off my own arm to satisfy you for these 2 devotees. You understand? Now, that's not a recommendation that we'll take off a limb of our body for our significant other, but it's just showing what is mamata. You understand? Samya Masunito Swanto Mamata to Sankita. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it explains this is the first element of love, is a sense of mamata. You understand? So in that Nṛsiṁha Prahlād Charit, this is taught. What is mamata? Surrender is taught by Prahlād. Surrender to Harinam, and Harinam non being different from Krishna's taught. The glory of a devotee and how a devotee never perishes is taught. Because I mentioned before, when he killed Hiranyakasipu, he took the heart of Hiranyakasipu and held it up for the whole world to see. See? No matter what happens with my devotee, they're always my devotee. So Jai and Vijay could never have become demons. You understand? So he's showing this was a Leela. And my devotees never perish. So many teachings are in there. So Nṛsiṁha deity is also important in our temples, and Nṛsiṁha protects the Sankirtan movement. When the Chand Kazi attacked the Sankirtan party of Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu organized all the devotees and they marched to the house of the Kazi. And when Mahaprabhu went in the house of the Kazi and was talking to him, he said, do you know that in your previous life you were my uncle? Who was the Chand Kazi in his previous life? Kamsa. You understand? So now he said, you're my uncle. You understand? Then he gives a whole explanation of how the Quran and how Bhakti, they're all worshiping one God. He gives a whole thing. And then the Chand Kazi said, let me tell you something privately though. You know, last night after I broke the mridanga and I went to sleep, this fierce lion appeared and he stood on my chest and scratched my chest. You don't believe me? Let me prove it. He opened his coat and they saw the nail marks of Nṛsiṁhadeva. You understand? So Nṛsiṁhadeva is the protector of the Sankirtan movement. I once asked Gurudev, therefore Gurudev, should we always pray to Nṛsiṁhadeva for protection? He said you can pray to Nṛsiṁhadeva while you're preaching for protection. But he said in the mood of a Brijabasi, we always take shelter of Giriraj or Govardhan for our protection. You understand? So when your bhajan matures, you'll think, oh, I'm protected by Giriraj in my internal mood. But for our Sankirtan preaching, Nṛsiṁhadeva is protecting the mood. So Srila Prabhupada and many other, even in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's time, they would establish like Nṛsiṁhadeva either on the outside of the temple, you'll see the form of 2, a lion-like feature and so forth. So always some feature of Nṛsiṁhadeva is established, right? Very rarely, and only to satisfy devotees of Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman, would sometimes Srila Prabhupada allow the deities of Sita and Ram to be established in the temples, like in Potomac Temple in DC, in our temple in Houston, because there's a prominent part of the congregation who are Ram Bhaktas. So in order to give them some substance of worship, and because Ram and Krishna are directly the same person in tattva, not in rasa, but in tattva, sometimes Srila Prabhupada would establish, like in Bombay, the worship of Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman. That was not meant for us. That was meant for preaching and for those who are Ram Bhaktas. Now I'm coming to my point. You can only have a mood of worship for one form of Bhagavan. In the Manasiksha of Raghunath Das Goswami, he points this out. In the 9th verse, he mentions Marisha Natatve Vraja Vipina Chandra Vraja Vanesharim Tam Natatve. So here, the very first lines of the 9th verse, he's mentioning how should we see our relationship to the deities. He says, Marisha Natatve. Marisha means who is my worshipable deity? My worshipable deity is Srimati Radharani. Radharani, the love of her life is Krishna. Therefore, I worship Krishna because he is the prananav, or the love of the life of Radhika. So your devotion now becomes one-pointed if you're in Palyadasi Bhav. You understand? Now, how do we relate that to all the other deities? In the Gita Govinda, which is a very highly esoteric, I'm coming, Tulsi. It's a very highly esoteric Rasic Grantha, means book, written by Jayadev Goswami. He recites the Das Avatar Stotram. He glorifies all the different incarnations. So wait a minute, if this book is all about the deep love of Radha and Krishna, why would he be talking about all the Das Avatar? It was to point out that our vision of Nṛsiṁhadeva, Raha, Kurma, all of these, is that these are different manifestations of our worshipful objective, which is Krishna, and Krishna is the beloved of Srimati Radharani. You understand? So we don't see that, oh, well, we don't worship any other form of Krishna. We see all of these as features of Vrindāvana Krishna. Who is the original form of Krishna? Brahma tells in Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Nadyādi Govinda Sāvakarana Karanam. The original Ishvara is Govinda. So I recited the verse Ramadi Murteshu Kala Niyamena Tistan. Govinda is the origin of all the other incarnations. So therefore we see all the other incarnations as being expanded from our worshipful objective, which is Krishna through Radharani, if you're in Manjari Bhav. You understand? So this is how we develop one-pointed mood. What happens in a lot of temples is that the devotees don't go beyond just the tattva gata vichar. All the deities are like Krishna. Now, are all the deities equally like Krishna? Nṛsiṁha, Varaha deity, Sitaram, are they all exactly like Krishna?
No.
No. In tattva, they're all Bhagavan, but even in tattva, I just explained, because Krishna is the origin of all the different incarnations of God, they can't all be equal to Krishna. Tulsi, are you there? You had a question. I don't see her now. All right, Tulsi, if you come back, just unmute.
She's available. Hare Krishna.
Oh, okay.
Haribol. Shakti Maharaj. Haribol, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
So I have two questions.
Okay.
But maybe they're one big question, but I guess depending on how you're looking at it. So when you mentioned that Baladeva-Shakti awards the spiritual body,
yes,
I was reflecting on how
in Braj,
all Shakti ultimately comes from Srimati Radharani.
Mm-hmm.
And so it had me thinking about, would it be correct to understand that Baladeva facilitates the manifestation of the spiritual body while Srimati Radhika like empowers our inner devotional mood within that form?
It will depend on the mood. So all the moods contain something called Hlādinī vritti, which is the pleasure that Krishna experiences in exchange with the devotee. Plus, I didn't realize the time, so I'll take these questions of Tulsi as the last questions, and then we'll have a kirtan. But what happens is that there are two things which are needed. Three things, actually. One is a vastu body, a spiritual body. If you have developed that body by sadhana, the body will be awarded by Balaram according to your mood. And remember, Baladev has power in all the moods. His power in Madhurya Rasa is as a Nanga Manjari.
Right.
So you'll be awarded a body in Manjari Bhav, still from Sandhinī-śakti, which Baladev is a predominating deity. The mood you have and the happiness that comes to you and is exchanged with Krishna comes from Radhika. That is called Hlādinī-śakti.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Okay.
And Krishna himself is the object or Vishai of the service and the mood you have. You understand? So this is how that works. Now, let's say you end up worshiping Narayan in Vaikuntha. Baladev in the form of Shankarshan will give you a four-handed form in Vaikuntha. The jivas who are in the material world, Jiva Goswami is written in Paramatma Sandarbha, Paramatmaika Seshatva. They're the energy coming from Paramatma Shakti. And the bodies we receive of the material elements ultimately come from the Paramatma. Understand?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that trilogy works. Now,
Okay.
an interesting thing is when you look at the theology at the top of the chain, so to speak, Kṛṣṇa, Balarāma, and Radhika. Why does Balaram have the name Balaram? I'm explaining because it's late. The word Bal means Shakti. Who is the original Shakti of Krishna?
Śrīmati Radhika.
Radhe.
And Ram means Ramate iti Rama, Ramayate iti Rama, the power to give pleasure. Who is the origin of that power?
Radhe.
Therefore,
And
the
Radhe.
original power of everything is Radharani. But it breaks down in tattva so we can understand it clearly and not make things conflated how it works. So how it works is that if you are Sadhana Siddha and you're going to get a spiritual body to serve, the supply chain for that body is Sandhinī-śakti coming from Baladeva-tattva. You understand? The power to make Krishna happy is coming from Radhika as the Hlādinī vritti.
Okay. Yes, so beautiful.
Very good.
Thank you, Baba.
Our Goswamis have been so kind, and Śrīla Prabhupada has been so kind. All of these things are written in Caitanya Charitamrita and in the books of our Goswamis. All right, it's time to go. Would anybody like to volunteer to do the kirtan? You gonna do it? All right, my wife's gonna do it.
I want to show my face.
All right. You want the microphone? Here. Okay. I also want to thank Shyamananda Prabhu. He was so kind, very nice devotee here. He gave me a professional microphone so that the streaming is better. My ingenious wife has moved me into another place in the house where the lighting is better. So we're off to a really good start on improving this whole thing, especially at the behest of my sort of taskmaster, Parvati Didi, who make sure that I'm doing these things right. So, but anyway, my wife's going to do the kirtan. Just Panchatatvanari.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vṛndāvana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Go Premanande.
Hari Hari Bo.
Jai
All right. Trivikram, you had something before going? Oh, okay. Alrighty, Dandava Pranam. Also, I'd like to mention, I'm sorry, I'm very happy to have Vinay Prabhu and Krishna Kamini Didi